Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Welcome. This is our very first Pride Across Texas event for 2022. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Tina Cannon. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And you could add your pronouns to your by editing your profile as well. You can see the little edit buttons and change your pronouns to what you prefer. We have plenty of networking coming up after this program in the Chamber Networking Cafe. So be sure to stick around. There's a little something we're going to tell you about. You'll be able to connect with your fellow business owners and professionals from across the entire state of Texas through all of our sister chambers throughout the state. Today, we are super excited to have a very, very special guest speaker. Ashley T. Brundage is here with us today. If you've heard her speak before in the past, then you know what treat you are in for today. She's a leading LGBTQ inclusive expert, and she's going to have some amazing and insightful remarks that you're probably going to want to take some notes on. So huge thank you as well. We couldn't do what we do without the support of our sponsors. So thank you for our 2022 Pride Across Texas presenting sponsor, Arca Continental, Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages. We really do appreciate your support and commitment and intentionality with the LGBT plus community in Texas. Let's take just a moment to hear a little bit about our friends at Arca Coca-Cola.
Step. For Arca Continental Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages, our journey began more than 100 years ago. We are a company of Arca Continental, the second largest Coca-Cola bottler in Latin America. In 1926, Arca Continental became the first Mexican bottler of Coca-Cola products. The company is now the third largest Coca-Cola bottler in the world. In 2017, Arca Continental purchased the Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages territory, which includes Texas and parts of Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Arkansas. We are a total beverage company, marketing and selling many of the world's most popular juices, teas, waters, energy drinks, coffee, and soft drinks. We emphasize sustainability in our operational practices and giving back as a company to the communities that help our business thrive. Every day, we are building a stronger future for our associates, our communities, and our company.
Well, now I'm thirsty. I hope y'all are too. Be sure to support all the work that they're doing. And thank you very much, Arca Coca-Cola. Let me get out of the way and bring on somebody who is an icon in the Texas LGBT Chamber space, none other than Houston's president and CEO, Tammy Wallace.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you for your leadership and all you do in Austin and your collaboration. Tammy Wallace, I'm the co-founder, president, and CEO, as Tina said, of the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. My pronouns are she, her, and thrilled to be with you all today and thrilled that you're joining us. I know we've got a lot of people that are excited, and I am excited to hear Ashley speak. This is going to be it's a tremendous treat to have her join us. But we do have, I know that she was going to be joining us, special guest, Health and Human Services Regional Director, Region 6, Seema Lajivardian. I hope I pronounced that right, Director. She is a new appointee for the Biden administration, leading again Region 6 for Health and Human Services. So we're glad to have her and her team and everyone joining us. I just want to give everyone a quick overview of the Texas LGBTQ Chambers of Commerce. You can see it is 4 chambers strong, including Austin, Houston, North Texas, and the San Antonio LGBT Chambers of Commerce. We are doing work to bring together the LGBTQ plus allied and business community and professionals across the state through events such as Pride Across Texas, through our LGBTBE Roundtable, helping our certified businesses, and we're going to be announcing an exciting program that we're launching in March. So you'll be hearing more about that. You can see what we have outlined as our mission and our focus, but ultimately this is about economic inclusion for the LGBTQ plus community, coming together, working together to drive outcomes and results to support businesses and professionals in the state of Texas. And, as a collaborative, we have some amazing leaders that work in each of the chambers in their respective markets, and I'd love to introduce them to you right now. First, as you met, Tina Cannon. She's the CEO, as she mentioned, and president of the Austin LGBT Chamber. And Tina has been remarkable. We had the pleasure of getting to know her a number of years ago when she came on board, and she has just taken the Austin LGBT Chamber to new heights. Next up is myself, and I mentioned I'm one of the co-founders. We launched the chamber in 2016. We have literally been going strong since then and love our partnership with the other 3 chambers across the state. And then we have Tony Vetta, who he is the president and CEO of the North Texas LGBT Chamber. He is not with us today, and in his stead is Lisa Howell. You'll be hearing from her shortly, one of their staff members. But Tony, a lot of people know Tony in the LGBTQ plus chamber world, but also in the chamber world. He has been a remarkable leader involved in the chamber world, I believe, for 15, 20 plus years, including working with a number of LGBTQ chambers since their inception. And last but not least, Melissa Ochoa. She is the president of the board of the San Antonio LGBT Chamber of Commerce, and she puts collaboration right to the forefront. She has been a tremendous collaborator with the other 3 chambers, an amazing leader in San Antonio, and helped move the San Antonio LGBT Chamber to a whole nother level. So we love working with her, and it is a pleasure every day of the year to work with these amazing leaders, including Lisa Howe, who, as I mentioned, is she's stepping in for Tony today, but she is a great leader herself, having run the Nashville LGBT Chamber of Commerce for a number of years before she and her wife moved back to Dallas. So Lisa, I will turn it over to you.
Tammy, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So good to be with my colleagues from Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. And all of you out there, it's good to see our members and all the other members across the state. So I get the honor today to introduce our featured speaker. And during the presentation, you'll have a chance to ask questions. You can put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A, and we will plug those in at the end. But everyone, we are so lucky to have today Ashley T. Brundage. Ashley is the founder and president of Empowering Differences. While seeking employment at a major financial institution, she overcame harassment, discrimination, and homelessness to empower her differences. Not just her status as a transgender woman, but also missing the chance to go to college growing up due to her transition. Gender, education, ability, and religion played key parts in her journey of empowerment. Starting her second career as a part-time teller, she rose to National Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion in less than 5 years at her bank. And she captured this process of using empowerment to cultivate change in her new book and online leadership course, both called Empowering Differences. Ashley, I want to also thank you for your volunteer and leadership with GLAD as the vice chair on their national board of directors, which works to accelerate acceptance for the LGBTQ plus community. You can learn more about Ashley Brundage at ashleybrundage.com. And you can learn more by staying right here with us and listening from Ashley herself. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to be here. Look, we had amazing, amazing friends, Tina and Coke and an icon in Texas, Tammy, the icon, and now Lisa. I feel like it's 4-letter words only today. But let's talk about some really amazing stuff, which is empowerment. And as we utilize empowerment in our day-to-day lives, it's really important that we think about and we learn what actually is empowerment and what does it mean and how do we access it, how do we use it, and most importantly, how can we leverage our differences to impact change for business growth. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. And I want you to be really fun and utilize the chat box as we move through our session to really ultimately help you all empower differences, because everyone can empower differences. And let's start with an icebreaker activity, because there's lots of ice in this virtual world, and I want to know that you're out there. So let's just imagine a scenario for a moment where you have no money, no cell phone, no identification. You don't understand the language being spoken around you. Go to the chat right now and tell me how you're feeling in that environment. No money, no cell phone, no identification. What are you feeling in that environment if you were navigating that position without any of those resources? Oh, I see the chat coming in. There we go. Naked, alone, lost, scared is definitely probably one of the ones I immediately think of. How about fear? Fear of the unknown, fear of what's coming next. You know, this is a big place for a lot of people in our LGBTQ plus community, especially. And we often are looking for some place where we can find safety, security, business continuity. You found it right here with your LGBT chambers of commerce across this great state. And that is exactly why you've come to this event, to learn about Pride Across Texas. Well, let's just imagine now you come to an LGBT chamber event, or you come to a safe space. How are you now feeling being here, thinking about the fact that you have people here who are going to get your back and have your back and be connected to you? Hopefully you're taking that moment right now to connect with people, and I see some thumbs up here. Hopefully you feel better knowing that you have all the allies that you need in your sphere right here in this meeting, ready to build you up, ready to connect with you, ready to network with you at the end of this session today, where we're going to have a networking connected. Those are the kinds of things that are going to drive you to feel that connectivity and that empowerment. Let's talk a little bit about how you felt, if you felt empowerment. Maybe you saw one of these flags before. And as you see flags and other variations of this flag, what does it tell you? It's telling you something, right? What else? There's other signs that you see throughout this world. You might see an inclusive language sign that says, hey, guess what? We speak your language. We might also see a sign that says you can access this building, or there's resources for you if you have a disability or you're differently able. Like myself, I actually hold on to a hidden disability, and I don't always talk about it, but sometimes it's important to empower that difference. What about this sign? This sign took a whole new meaning after George Floyd was murdered, and people started saying this as a statement of support for others. It's not that other people don't matter, it's that Black lives need to matter, so that way others then can matter more. And it's about amplifying those who might be in a disprivileged position. And how can you use one of your disprivileges to drive more empowerment? And that is exactly what we're going to talk about in our time together, because any one of these signs ultimately can showcase inclusion for you and other people, whether you have any one of these differences or not. Think about that. Now, that is inclusion in action. And inclusion is one of the 10 empowering actions that we're going to talk about today. And think about that empowerment is that feeling of connection that you get through an app that I like to tell you that you don't even have to pull out your phone to download. It's authority, power, and people. If you have all three of those things happening in any one moment, then potentially you could have empowerment embedded in what you're doing. So let's talk about how you use your app of empowerment. Remember, you didn't have to download it, but driving for that app is how you build a connection with others. That's how you're going to drive more business for your organization or your own company. Use my 4-step empowerment process. That's going to make that difference. So step 1 in the 4-step process is to know yourself. You cannot help anyone else until you know what's going on with you first. Let's not kid ourselves. You may have heard this in a myriad of other ways, like RuPaul says it best probably. How the hell are you going to help anybody else if you can't help yourself first? So yes, you do have to know yourself in this empowerment world. So download my self-assessment if you happen to have one of those, if you're privileged enough to have one of those devices that have a camera, like a cell phone, you can pull this out, you can pop the picture right on the screen, and that will take you right to my assessment, and you can download my empowerment assessment for free. You can also access the assessment. Hopefully there might be a link that might drop in here in the chat in a moment, but that will help you to assess your engagement of empowerment. And what are you going to be doing when you take this assessment? It's not like normal assessments where you're going to get spit out of you should do this. Because guess what? Empowerment starts and ends with you. You are the only person in this world who can gauge whether or not you have empowerment and how you use empowerment to better other people in this world. So that means you need to organize your differences. You need to evaluate your comfort zone, your privilege, your empowerment, and empowerment of others. And what ends up happening is you learn more about your intersectionality by answering my open-ended questions. And then we will drive that impact together. That is where you're going to learn about empowerment, is all within yourself. So know yourself, step one. Step two is to know other people in this world. And of course, that's learning about others and the differences that we hold. So I did 8 years worth of research surrounding the 10 most common differences that we hold as humans. And what did I find from this research? I found that different people require different empowerment steps and different empowering actions depending upon which difference they were thinking about empowering. So we all have age, we all have ability, we all have social economic class, education levels, language, ethnicity, religion, gender, race, sexuality. We all have those. Those are all the 10 most common differences that we hold as humans. But you will only know whether or not you come from a privileged position or a disprivileged position on each and every one of those. And as you start thinking about that privilege or disprivileged position, that is where the empowerment lives. It lives in your ability to either use either way, either spectrum. So empowering differences ultimately applies to every single situation where you can cultivate a relationship with someone and drive results and impact through your purposeful engagement. And that is what we're talking about, this process that will lead to more empowerment. Now, step 3 is where things get really complicated, because if you go into this mission and you're not strategic, you might encounter some pitfalls. You might not necessarily seize as much empowerment as you could have. And so that's why developing your own strategy for how you're going to empower differences is really important in this mission. I'll tell you that in my journey of overcoming harassment, discrimination, and homelessness, it was largely centered around empowering my transgender status, which is my gender. And so I kept pouring all the empowering data that I uncovered in knowing others into my gender difference. And what I found was that was definitely helping me early in my career. It was definitely helping me cultivate relationships, but it was also pigeonholing me to my one difference of my gender status. I wasn't thinking about all the other differences that I held on to, and the fact that I could cultivate relationships through all those other differences. And so I was so dead set focused on just my gender status that I forgot the fact that where I was in my career journey, now I needed to focus on the fact that my educational difference was my new biggest perceived weakness. Because I did the data so that the company saw me as female, I saw myself as female. The company was 61% female where I worked at PNC Bank. And at that point, I was part of a majority group now. But my educational level was really the thing that I needed to focus on, because I never went to college. So many people may never go to college, especially in our current financial crisis climate. It might not be the best case for going to college in this environment. Maybe learning a trade might be better for some people. Well, I learned the trade of empowerment. So I had to position that as a strength. And I also had to position my lack of going to college as a strength. And how did I do that? Well, I went into the organization and I did some research, and I realized that about 28% of the people that worked at PNC Bank had never finished or graduated from college. Wow. Well, then I was thinking, wait a minute. Maybe we need a little bit more representation in our programs with leadership. And that was one of the biggest reasons I was able to grow my career so quickly at PNC, was positioning my strategy. So you have to always develop a strategy for which difference you're about to empower. But I also want you to be strategic about the actions that you're going to take to make an impact for other people, because that's where cultivating the business is going to live. And you do that through empowering actions, which is the fourth step of your 4-step empowerment process today. As you navigate these 4 steps, be thinking about how purposeful you can be to drive the impacts for people. And remember that these 10 empowering actions were all cultivated from the research that I did with my empowerment panel. So my process of knowing others was really purposeful. You may have your own board of directors. Do you have your own personal board of directors? Do you have advisors, strategic advisors that you use, people you bounce things off of when you're planning something big for your company? Yeah, that's exactly what you should have. That's your empowerment panel. I had mine. That's who I finished this research with. And you know what? My empowerment panel of 10 people, they spoke 7 different languages and they had 6 different religions, just to give you an idea to the intersectionality of the group that I gathered. If you're not gathering a group that encompasses intersectionality in mind, then you're going to have a hard time going to market to win business across all of the different communities that you serve. Do you think that Coca-Cola markets to just one demographic, to one community? No, they do not. They have targeted advertisement campaigns that work for different regions in the country. So exactly why wouldn't you do that as well? And you start by doing that by forming your own empowerment intersectional panel of experts to help you grow your business. And so what you'll end up seeing is the same thing that I saw was when I asked the panel about my business plan and my strategy, was they helped me cultivate these 10 empowering actions to impact others. And they are empowering actions because they involve the app for empowerment that I mentioned earlier. If anybody remembers what the app for empowerment is, go ahead and put it in the chat right now. What does app stand for? It's not something you download. You already have access to it. It stands for those 3 key principles, those 3 key words. We're going to see who is the fastest typer who can type in the 3 words that stand for the app of empowerment. So I'm curious to see who knows that. But there you go. All right, Sarah, give Sarah a round of applause. It's definitely authority, power, and people. So connect authority, power, and people to each one of these actions, and then you will create them as an empowering action. So let's talk about a few of those empowering actions before we open up to questions in a few minutes. First one is inclusion. And so I gave you a little teaser about how you can see signs that showcase inclusion. But let's talk about a little bit more about how your business can use inclusion to celebrate and connect with other people. Well, you do that through culture and belonging, ultimately. You have to make a first impression when you're building a relationship with someone. The first moment you meet them, ultimately, that is that make or break moment where you'll either be not remembered, or memorable. And those 3 key things are very, very different. If you're wondering, pull open the dictionary and read the definition between being remembered and being memorable. I really challenge you to look at the distinction between those 2 definitions, because you will be mind blown, okay, in the difference between them. And it's so mind blowing that I wrote a whole chapter in my book, a whole section in my book, definitely related just to the difference between those 2. And then as you start utilizing culture, remember every single person that you interact with in your empowerment journey for your business is all about driving culture. It's all contributing to culture. Everyone is a culture carrier, whether they work in your business or they're your customer or they're your prospect. Every single, or your family, all of those people are contributing towards the culture of your business. It's not just a people thing, it's a manager thing, it's an everybody thing. Okay. And then belonging is that central feeling of connection that you get from your engagements. It also connects to understanding how privilege intersects on both of those things. Remember how I said earlier the difference between a disprivilege and a privilege? And knowing that you can come from either position on any one of the 10 differences, and then how that impacts how you build a relationship. So think about those things. Also remember that this all connects back to leadership. So you're using inclusion to drive impacts for people. Then guess what that means? You have inclusion, which contains authority potentially, and it could potentially contain power, right? And then if you're doing that with people, guess what you've done? You have used the app of empowerment. And you can use the app of empowerment in every scenario as you cultivate relationships to build your business and to grow your community, to give back to your community. These are all examples of how you can do that. You engage with people, you develop others, develop people who are not even in your company, because ultimately that will be your way of providing power and authority to somebody else. And that will ultimately lead back to more empowerment for you, driving your own organizational culture and showcasing you as a welcoming leader. Now, inclusion, of course, has lots of takeaway steps and actions. And I've given you lots of ones that are not on this slide, but here's a few more. Is remember and know, do your research for the city that you live in and the town you live in, and know who's represented and who isn't. And then amplify the people who aren't represented. And know what that culture is that's being driven, and then contribute to it positively. Understand the impression that you're leaving, because every single day you are contributing towards that impression, and that will lead to being memorable, because memorable is ultimately what you're driving towards in this action. Speak out when you see something that's not right. If you're getting invited to a panel and it's all women or all men or all white people, and then say no. Okay, you can say no if you see an opportunity to showcase more empowerment for other intersectional diverse communities. So make sure you stand up when you see something that isn't right. The moment you close the door to a room that is not inclusive, you're now part of the problem, and you're missing an opportunity to stand up and say that this is not a welcoming environment. So sometimes that's a dangerous place to be, but remember, that's where empowerment lives, sometimes stepping out. So what is your favorite way to showcase inclusion? What is the step you do to drive an impact? Go to the chat right now and start sharing that with others, because that will be empowering, because you're sharing something impactful that you do to drive inclusion for others. So go ahead and do that. And I'm going to shift gears while you're typing what that might be. And I'm going to talk a little bit about access, which is definitely probably one of, well, they're all my favorite empowering actions. But I'll tell you that access is ultimately the driver for equity. So people are talking a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion. People are talking a lot about creating a safe place. Well, I have to tell you that if you don't think in the terms of giving access for people, then you're missing an opportunity to drive empowerment for them. Because simply providing an ability for someone to access something, that has empowerment embedded all over it. Okay, so think about that. And as I mentioned, access could be accessibility surrounding how you create the ability for people to utilize your programs, services, or goods or offerings. Okay, so it obviously definitely means accessing something. It also could be surrounding language access and how we produce that ability to do that. It also means that you may have to literally make yourself accessible. So how many of you provide an opportunity for people to literally put time on your calendar? Do you do that? I don't know, but should you do that? Can't you outline at least 2 to 3 30-minute sessions every week where you can build and connect and network with people? Well, that might be a great way to drive access for more impacts for people. I'll just tell you that you can create one of those free calendar doodles with Doodle or Calendly. They all have free versions that you can use. And you can outline the times that you're available for a meeting every week. And make it when you're available and stick to that and block it out on your calendar so that way you know that that's your meeting times. And then share that with people who you think could use more strategic access. And I'll tell you what will end up happening. You will cultivate relationships with people and you will provide empowerment for them, and they will constantly be your champions for your business down the line. It may be a time commitment to do that. Maybe it's an hour and a half a week. It's 3 half-hour meetings. I think you can do that. I think you can create that time. You may find someone who is starting their own LGBT business, or maybe they're starting their own employee resource group in their company. And now you'll be able to share what you've done and how you've navigated this world. And you've created access for this person, access to you and your expertise, because every single person in this meeting has an expertise in something. And then you now have driven an opportunity for someone to get ahead. And that then will hopefully drive more equity for our communities. Now, there you go. What does this ultimately result in? It results in networking, of course, is what you're doing. You're building relationships with people. You're doing strategic moves. Okay? There's obviously great ways to network. Even during the pandemic, you can network. Okay? We need to get out of this lane of thinking that we're disconnected when we have an opportunity to connect it. A great way to build connection right now would be drop your hyperlink with the HTTPS, right, with the clickable hyperlink in the chat right now of your LinkedIn profile, and then people can access you on LinkedIn. That's a great way to network. LinkedIn is probably one of the best ways to build your platform for your business. What I'll tell you is if you're not maxing out your connection request, you get 100 every single week. So if you haven't strategically searched people that you should be building business relationships with in your search function every single week and provided access to connect with them, this is your moment in time to make that one of your deliverables every single week that you're going to do. You're going to max out your 100 connection requests to grow your LinkedIn platform. Cost you nothing. It's 100 people you could be connecting with every single week that could literally grow your sphere. How do you think I got to 40,000 connections on LinkedIn? It's because I literally did this. I started doing this years ago, okay? And now that's what I've done. And guess what? Also create your business page for your business on LinkedIn. Guess how many connections you get on that per month? 100. You can invite 100 of your connections to like your business page per month. And as they accept them, you get to use them again. So at the first of the month, you should immediately invite the 100 people that you want to invite. Try to be strategic on that 100, okay? So that way it's people that will accept your invitation to like your page on LinkedIn. And then at the end of the day, once you get those connection requests accepted throughout the month, maybe once a week or every other week, go back through and re-invite before the end of the month, because they're only going to give you another 100 at the end of the month. So make sure on the last day of the month that you've also maxed out your invitations for anyone that has given you your credits back and resend them out again. Okay, this is a great way to use LinkedIn to network with your business and grow your business. The last thing I'll tell you about LinkedIn is events. It's on the slide. If you're not creating your own LinkedIn event, you're missing a huge opportunity. And this opportunity is to collect all the data and relevance for driving your business forward. If you are planning to ever do anything, even if it is a virtual meet and greet or a coffee chat, or maybe you're going to host a networking event at a bar and you're going to utilize Facebook to do an event, copy the same exact thing on LinkedIn, link it to your Facebook page or link it to wherever you want to link it to, but create it from your business page, and you'll be able to link it to your contact, your data retention policy, your contact us policy. If you want to copy mine, you can go to my contact us page at empoweringdifferences.com. And at that point, you'll be able to create a LinkedIn event. And when you do that, you'll be able to invite 1,000 people every single week to your event. And guess what? People will automatically just click the accept button. So you'll get people who will accept your LinkedIn invitation to your event. They probably won't all know that it's actually an event that they accepted, because LinkedIn events are still kind of new. But what's going to happen is guess what? When they've clicked that check mark button, guess what you're going to get? At the end of the day, you get to download the file. And guess what's in that file? Name, first name, last name, company title, email address, and location. And you'll get to download that file and have more empowerment for your business. And guess what? That file is going to be like gold for you, because you're going to be growing your email marketing database. My email marketing database started at like 2,000, and now it's 8,000 from my LinkedIn events. So you can do that too, and you can become the next big thing potentially. Okay, so obviously what I'm telling you to do is leverage your contacts, right? Create the access for yourself, others, and drive it through the power of privilege. Remember, take access to create empowerment. Make yourself accessible with that calendar, create the networking opportunities, use sponsorship to impact other people in this world, and then create access through your contacts. All right, so my last action, and I know I'm getting over on time maybe a little bit, but remember, empowerment, right? I said it's authority, power connected to people. So that means you can empower yourself, you can empower others. You can also empower organizations. You can use your differences as an advantage to drive impacts for people. Whatever it is that you think is your biggest weakness, that is merely perception, because that is exactly where you should start pouring all the empowerment. And notice how I say start, because it might not necessarily be where it is. And then know the data that's impacting, that brings the value for others to understand why your difference makes a difference. Know the LGBT America's Economy report, and you can download that report right here on this link here. I assume maybe the link will drop here in just a second. The America's LGBT Economy, right? $1.7 trillion. You want to talk about empowering your difference. This is the greatest way to do that, is to talk about this freaking report. It is game changing. Anytime I talk about the $1.7 trillion, I get people's attention. So you should be doing that in the business room every chance you get. But also track results from your empowerment work. This is how you use the empowering action of empower. You track results from the work that you're doing. So I created the TGX initiative with the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And you know what we did? We tracked the results from our empowerment work. When we started this work in 2018, there were only 26 businesses in the United States that were TGX, trans, gender nonconforming, and non-binary. And today, in this moment today, either certified or in the process of gaining certification, we have more than 400 businesses today. How did we go from 26 to 400? Well, number one, I tracked the results from empowerment. Number two, we did that through economic empowerment. We eliminated barriers to access. We networked. We cultivated relationships. We mentored people. We used all my empowering actions. Okay, there's no big secret here. All right. So I have some action steps for you to drive empowerment for people. I want you to look at that self-assessment through the lens of self-empowerment. And what I mean by that is I really want you to think about what you can do to drive the impacts for other people, and how you can use a privilege that you might have to impact someone who might be disprivileged in that same position. Track the results from the work that you do, and use everyday empowering actions, like all 10 of them, and use your own empowerment audit for how you use money or power to impact other people. And then how does that create authority for others? And authority sometimes could be promotions or tracked results around how you help people develop in their career or grow their career. So I went through a lot of actions for you. Just a quick recap. Remember that step 1 was to know yourself, and accessing the assessment and downloading that today is an important step in your journey to drive more empowerment for people. You hold on to the app for empowerment. As you move through this world, remember that it is important to connect with other people. So each of my 4 steps has a corresponding resource that drives empowerment for people. So for step 2, my book is actually the resource that helps you understand empowerment, driving into knowing other people. So you can obviously access that. There's a link here where you can grab my book. I'll tell you that step 3 is that strategy. So I actually also published a workbook that helps you build your own strategy for driving empowerment and helps you work on the actions to make these impacts. So that is where you can access my workbook. And then I also built an online learning platform where you can engage with empowerment and have a good time learning from me, your empowerment friend. And this is where you can access all of my tools and resources in one kit of parts, along with professional development plans, outlines, resources. Okay. So that's your 4 steps of empowerment. There are 4 ways to engage with me in the future. You can obviously have me come and speak in your organization. I would love to do that. I do trainings and workshops surrounding the actions, empowerment, and many other topics. I'll tell you that also you can utilize my empowerment resources. If you want to purchase any of my resources on my website, you can use coupon code Texas, because things are bigger in Texas. Okay, so go ahead and use the coupon code Texas, and that will save you 25% on any of my other resources for everyone here. And you can share that broadly if you so choose. Think about how we drive empowerment, because driving empowerment is where it lives. All right. And then obviously you can talk to me if you're trying to build a strategy yourself. I'll help you with your empowerment, your leadership strategies, DEI. And one last fun thing, because the world cannot have enough fun in this world. You could also join me for empowering recognition programs, where I'm going to be launching the world's first voyage of empowerment. Come and join me on the Royal Caribbean Mariner of the Seas and gain your empowerment through a 5-night empowerment conference with yours truly, special guest speakers, VIP attendees. We're going to have so much fun, empowerment accountability sessions, networking, team building, empowerment excursions. All the drinks are complimentary, a part of the process, including the internet. We're going to give you access to everything in a one-stop shop. We're not going to nickel and dime you and add on you to you. You're going to get a balcony. All of those things are included. So definitely, I would love to see you there. And I can't do this work without amazing allies. So thank you to those who are allies for other people and provide that empowerment allyship. I had Bryson Blake on my team, and they are the ones who give me that force to want to fight for a stronger future. So thank you so much. I hope I've saved a few minutes at least for questions, but I'm excited to dive in.
Thank you, Ashley. That's very inspiring. And I'm looking for questions, but I saw a comment from Brian Hall, one of our friends who's been right there in your seat. And he says, he suggests we connect to at least one person outside our expertise in business, service, or product. A great way to learn something new and stretch your brain.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Thank you for all the LinkedIn information. I'm definitely going to put a chamber event on LinkedIn. I have not done that yet. So thank you for that.
I'm excited. You can call me and I'll talk you through it if need be. Okay.
I mean, can you see the chat? Just tons of thank yous. You're the bomb. You're the best. You're great. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my
thank
God,
you.
Jamie Zapata. Oh my God, yes. Oh, my girlfriend, I love you.
Any questions for Ashley?
Yes.
Oh, somebody's going to buy your book.
Yay. Yeah, so if you buy from my website, I will definitely I will sign it. And I think at some point, aren't we raffling off a book at some point too? I don't know how we're doing that, but But this
Right,
is the one that
Melissa.
we're raffling off.
Oh, excellent. Melissa's coming up next, and
Oh,
if we
good.
don't have any
I
questions,
won't
I'm gonna.
steal her thunder then. Well, I probably stolen part of it.
So you got lots of love here, and Melissa, not seeing any questions. Oh, wait, I see a red dot in the
Yeah, I see a
question.
red dot in there. I didn't click into that. So
Can you share more about how employees can start this conversation in their companies?
yeah. Oh my goodness, this is great. Well, I think it definitely depends on what size the company is. But as you start navigating this conversation on empowerment, the best thing that I've noticed is by making it about a larger construct. The moment we start pigeonholing it to just one identity, or just talking LGBTQ, or just talking trans, we start pigeonholing us into one corner. When we make it broader about empowerment for all people, we make it less polarizing. Because what ends up happening is you say, it's the moment you say the word diversity, you are automatically ostracizing 35% of the intended audience. And so what ends up happening is you have to think about this from a standpoint of diversity. Like, someone will hear diversity and they'll immediately change the channel. So how can you really create systemic change in an organization when you're losing so many people? So really what we're talking about when we say empowering actions or empowering differences or all of these actions that drive impacts is leadership, right? I mean, leadership is the construct for which we're talking about. We've called it leadership for hundreds and hundreds of years, okay? It's no secret that leadership speakers, right? When you close your eyes and you picture the leadership speaker, who do you picture unconsciously? Do you picture someone like me? Do you maybe picture a person of color? Or do you picture like a white guy? I don't know, right? I mean, that's up to your own personal biases, right? And what you picture. But when growing up, I would think Tony Robbins, like literally would be the first name that would pop in my head. And so it's been ingrained in us that that's who we go to for leadership, is someone with the last name Covey. Okay. Well, but it's not necessarily like that now in this world, right? Because there's lots to learn from those that are different. Hence the construct of empowering your differences. And so think about it from that standpoint. When you approach it, that what you're going to talk about in your organization is leadership, you will find it to be much more palatable for all people. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents there on that topic. So, what else do we have here? Lisa, you still?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'll give
Oh.
time for one more question.
Oh,
One
yay.
aspect of diversity people don't pay enough attention to is ageism.
Yes.
Any thoughts, Ashley, about ageism?
Yeah. So definitely age was one of the 10 most common differences that I did a boatload of research on. And I made sure that my empowerment panel was between teens. I had a teen on my empowerment panel, and I had somebody in their 70s on my empowerment panel to make sure that we could gauge how they used age differently. So we obviously asked everyone the age-related questions. And so what I ended up finding, right, was the recipe of the actions that would make an impact. So if you want to connect more, right, I don't want to give away all the intellectual property on my research, but we can definitely talk more about that. But just as you're kind of navigating, utilizing empowerment, think about how each action needs to be prioritized based on which difference that you're about to address. And everyone has an age, right? And I know that ageism usually works in a disprivileged position, usually on both ends of the spectrum, right? So if you're really, really young, you get ageism. And if you're older, you get ageism as well. So as you navigate that, right, think about how if we knew that going into where people could work together to support each other and amplify each other in that space, utilizing age as a team demographic, right, working together. And that's the construct of empowering differences, is making sure that when you have a privileged or disprivileged position, that you have that awareness, and then you start utilizing it to drive impacts. So if you're in the middle section on age, think about what you do to impact others. That means you're typically then in the privileged position surrounding age. how do you impact the people on both ends of that spectrum regarding ageism?
Yeah, great point. All right, one last thing. Are you going to be at any other conferences this year?
Oh my
What are your plans?
I'm going to be at NGLCC in Vegas for certain. I'm going to be at the GLAAD Media Awards in LA and New York. If you want to sit at my table, send me a message. Of course, I have to sell a certain amount of tickets to meet my give or get for GLAAD, because I've kind of struggled the last 2 years of the pandemic without the GLAAD Media Awards. It's hard to raise money a little bit. But, there's those 3 events. I might go to SHRM. It's on my calendar. But I don't know. We'll see where else I'm obviously going to be on the Voyage of Empowerment.
Yeah,
I hope to see
exactly.
you all there for that as well. So definitely get your spot right now. There's a coupon code floating out there. It's VOE200. If you use VOE200, you'll save $200 off the booking for Voyage of Empowerment. And then of course I'm using Royal Caribbean's Cruise with Confidence program. So if something were to happen, you obviously get your money back if you cancel the cruise, right? I don't think that's going to happen. It's full steam ahead in this world from what I've seen. But I would love to see you all there. I'm actually going to be doing a European empowerment tour in July. Next month, I'm going to be in Thailand doing an Asia stop on my tour. So there's a lot going on in this world for empowerment.
Wow. Thanks, Ashley. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining today. My name is Melissa. I am the president of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce here in San Antonio. And it's a pleasure to see everyone. It's nice. I can't, just every time that we have these, it's just amazing to see the number of people. And then to have a speaker like Ashley. Ashley, your stories are just amazing. I could just hear you and just keep going on and on and on and on. It was too short of a time. And your book, I got your book, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading your book as well. Ashley will be in the Chamber, in the Chamber Networking Cafe. So if y'all want to connect with her, make sure that you join her table. And we will wrap it up this afternoon at 4:30. So the networking cafe will be open until 4:30. It looks like it's a couple of minutes to 4 o'clock right now. So you got about 30 minutes for that. So that's a great opportunity to connect with other members as well. So I know Ashley was talking about LinkedIn a while ago. That'd be a chance, an opportunity to also exchange networking, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or whatnot. You can do that if you didn't get a chance to do it in the chat a while ago. Be sure to move from table to table so you can meet other individuals as well from across the state of Texas. Those who stay connected in the Chamber Networking Cafe up until the end, you would have an opportunity to win a copy of Ashley's book. So make sure that you stay to the end so you can do that, because once you do that, and if you are the winner, we will get your information to be able to get that book sent to you. So it will be raffled off using the names of those individuals who stay to network at the end. Okay, so please make sure that you stick around. And speaking of connecting, if you're not a member of your local chamber, now is a great time to join your chamber. So again, there's Dallas, Houston, Austin, or North Texas, and then Houston, Greater Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. So be sure to connect with them and join the chamber at this time. Thank you again to our 2022 Pride Across Texas presenting sponsor, which is Arca Coca-Cola, Arca Continental Coca-Cola, Southwest Beverages. We're glad that you were able to join us again. We look forward to seeing you for the next Pride Across Texas, which is on June the 23rd. Until then, please be safe, stay well, and we will see you in the networking cafe.